Good morning, everybody. My name is Eoin and I'm just going to talk to you this morning about a couple of things that I'm interested in. And because it is Sunday morning, and maybe you were all up late last night, I thought I might bring something here maybe to help to wake you up. So I have a nice brown box here, and in this brown box I have something really special. How many people are from Cuirc here? Very good. So the people who are from Cuirc will recognize this yellow book here. So this yellow book is the Lifelong Learning Festival. So every year we have a festival where people can learn a whole load of different things, anything that you want to teach. The one rule about the festival is that all the events are free. So everything is free. So for the whole week, they have like 700 different events, and you can do something for free. So I'll just read a couple here, learn about ornamental edibles, learn about volunteering, introduction to photography, in the light of learning opportunities for adult learners in the city centre. So there are a whole load of different things. And Cuirc is one of 12 UNESCO learning cities. So there's this idea that we're learning for life. So what has that got to do with the brown box? Well, I was asked, I sit on the steering group. One of the things I do is I sit on the steering group for the Learning Cities. And I was asked, hey, Eoin, would you do something for the Lifelong Learning Festival? I said, no problem. So because you can do anything, what I did was I suggested that I would do this course on making bombs. So what I have in the box here is bombs. So I got about 110 people came to the evening to actually make the bombs. So I was away teaching the Get Growing course last week in the UK, and unfortunately some of the bombs exploded on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just one of the bombs, so this is what a bomb looks like. It's very simple to make and we can pass it around. So when we were making the bombs, the people thought to me, they thought, Eoin, those bombs aren't going to work, So when I was away in Spain, some of the bombs exploded. And if anyone has seen one of these bombs before, they're actually seed bombs. So it's a seed bomb, and inside this bomb is sunflower seeds. So when I was away in Spain during the week, they exploded, and you can see the sunflowers are coming out. So we're just going to pass them around so you can see a sunflower. And that's part of a project from the Cork Food Policy Council, which is called Greening the Historic Spine. So what we're trying to do is say, let's create awareness about food. If somebody knows about food, if somebody grows food, if somebody sees food, they'll respect food more. And if they respect food more, then maybe they won't throw it out. So we made the bombs, and we have this project called Greening the Historic Spine. And the historic spine in Cork is from North Main Street and South Main Street, where the parts of the gates, the two gates of the city, and then Shandon Street and Barrack Street go off that. So part of the project is any derelict area or any place where nothing is growing, why don't we actually throw the bombs into that place? So it's called guerrilla gardening. So we throw the bombs into the place, and then a few months later, everybody is going around the city wondering, I wonder where all those sunflower seeds came from. I wonder where all those sunflowers are growing. And sunflowers are really, really tall, and they're really bright yellow, so they really stand out. So later on in the year, people will be walking around our city going, there's another sunflower. Where did that come from? And that's the idea of the project. So as part of the project as well, I taught a workshop on growing your own vegetables. So the idea of it's greening the historic spine, but as greening the historic spine, it's about not just growing stuff, but actually growing food and creating an edible city. So we taught this course here called Get Growing. It's about growing your own vegetables, a free course, and it teaches people who know nothing about growing to be able to start from scratch and know, regardless of the amount of space they have in the city, that they can have their little urban garden. And then we thought, how will people find out about this? So this project has no budget. So what we did was we got these old pallets and we went to Elizabeth's Fort. We chopped up the pallets and we made planters out of the pallets. We painted them nice colors like pink and blue, and we put them in strategic locations with vegetables in them and little notes on them to say, these are the vegetables that are in the pallets. So if people are driving along Barrack Street or down towards Douglas Street there, you'll see a couple of them. And the project is in cooperation with Reimagine Cuirc, which is about we paint murals and make the place look really nice, and Cuirc Social Good. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. What I'm here to talk about is these two projects that I'm involved in. One is called Be a Food Initiative and one is called Food Cloud. And I suppose the catch line on the talk is that nobody can change the world. And that's something that I really, really believe in, that nobody can change the world. We have so many problems. Nobody's going to solve food waste. Nobody's going to solve food poverty. Nobody can change that. And it's just such a big, big issue. So, the nobodies who I'm talking about who can change the world are these people here. These people who nobody has probably heard of. So in 1967 in Phoenix, Arizona, this guy called John Van Hengel, he was walking along the street. And as he was walking along the street, he came to the back of this grocery store. And at the back of this grocery store, there was this small Mexican woman pulling food out of a dumpster bin. And he stopped and he had a conversation with her and he said, "Why are you doing that?" And she said, "Well, I'm a widow. I have 10 children. I have no money. We have nothing to eat. I need this food." So he said, "Look, this is very degrading." Not to her, but he said, "You shouldn't have to do this." So what he did was he said, "Listen, I'll go in there, I'll talk to the store owner, and tomorrow, you come back here and we'll have this conversation." So when she came back tomorrow, he had talked to the store owner and he had arranged that he could collect the surplus food and he would bring it to the St. Vincent de Paul, to a place called St. Mary's, and the food would be there and the woman could come along and she wouldn't have to rummage around in the bin and it wouldn't be degrading. So that was in 1967, and John Van Hengel is the father of food banking. And that woman there is another nobody. So nobody knows who that woman is, but that woman started a whole movement. In 1984, this sister called Sister Cecile Bigot met Bernard Dandrel. So Bernard Dandrel is the founder of food banking in Europe. So the idea took from 1967 to get to Paris in 1984. And in 1984, there were no food banks in Europe. And in 2010, €1 billion worth of food was moved in the 28 EU countries through the food bank network. 86, Brussels, André Hubert. 1989, this guy called Jack Dunphy. He went to Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's rang them up. They had just arrived in Ireland, and they said, we have this tradition, we don't throw out any of our food. So if you just come along and pick up the food and you can distribute to the charities because we know you work with charities. So he said, fine. He had a Fiat 127. He drives up in the Fiat 127 and he gets to Marks and Spencer's and the guy says to him, "How's it going there?" He says, "Where's your van?" And Jack says, "Van? What van?" And he says, "Well, we have these 7 pallets of food here." So Jack then had to go off and start to find a place to take all this food. And he was the first guy who started a food bank. Brendan Dempsey in Cork, he got a van in 2011, and even an Iseult Ward met in Trinity in 2012. So these people are all involved in food banking. So Food Cloud has a vision of a world where no good food goes to waste. And BIA is a slightly different organization because what it's doing is it's saying, if you have a pallet of food, if you have 7 pallet loads of food, how do we move that food? So they match surplus with scarcity. So just to put some context, 30%, we heard from the last speaker, 30% of the food is wasted. This is the area of the world that all of the food is thrown out. So in other words, all of the food in these 3 countries, China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, if all of that food that was produced, that ends up getting thrown in the bin. That's the state, that's the amount of scale of food waste that we're talking about. There's 1 trillion litres of water. So 1 trillion litres of water is a really, really big amount of water. So that is 250 miles, 250 kilometres cubed. So I worked out today, I have to drive from here to Roscommon. That's 250 kilometres. And I have to then drive that distance to my right. And then I have to drive that distance into the sky to create this massive 250 kilometre cubed water tank that then I just waste. So 795 million people are going hungry. And we heard that from the last speaker that the food loss and waste, the global emissions from that, the CO2 emissions from that, that would be the 3rd largest country in the world after China and the United States. So all of that climate change, all of that problem is all to do with that food waste that's produced in those spaces. And in Ireland, we generate 1 million tons of food. And who wastes the food? The interesting thing is it's wasted by distributors, factories, and consumers. And at the same time, I'm a director of the Simon community. I go into the Simon every week. I work with penny dinners. I work with Vincent de Paul, and I see people on the street who are hungry. You know, they have no food to eat, just like that Mexican lady in Phoenix, Arizona. They've nothing to eat on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we're throwing out all this food. It's just mad. And then we have this problem with climate change, and it just doesn't make sense. So the amount of money, I just read a report there from the EU called Fusion. It was just published on the 31st of March of this year, 2016, and it said that 98 billion euro worth of food was thrown out by households in Europe in 2012. 98 billion, and I just couldn't get my head around that 98 billion. So I said to myself, Owen, because I work in the statistics office, that's my day job, I said, how do I work out what 98 billion is? So I went and I did the maths and I saw that it would take me 3,200 years to count every euro if I counted a second. So 1, 2, 3, it would take me 3,200 years to count the 98 billion euro that households are wasting in the food. It is a ginormous number. So we set up this organization called Food Cloud, and Food Cloud, the idea of Food Cloud is let's just have a different conversation. Let's try and change how people do things. And what we focused on was on the food industry. So what happens is we have a smartphone app, and in the smartphone app, what you do is at the end of the day, you type into your app, into the app, this is what I have, this is what I'm throwing out, right? And it goes up into the cloud, and the cloud knows where the charities are that are closest to that store, and the people then in the charity come and collect the food for nothing, and everybody wins. It costs the supermarket €150 a ton to throw out the food. The food charities don't have enough money to feed the 1 in 8 people who are hungry. So this is a win-win-win. The charities win, the food businesses win, and the environment wins. So here's this story. This guy here, Alan, he's in this Tesco store. So what does he do? This girl here, Mags, she's in the Liberty's Breakfast Club. So Alan, he goes onto Food Cloud. He says, I have a crate of this, a crate of that. He types it up into the app. There's the message there. It says, do you want to go and collect it? There's a number there. The charity then responds, and it says, yes, I will take that number. I will go and get the food. They go and get the food, and these are the girls who started it, Eoin and Iseult. So in the last year, 3 million meals have been moved using this technology. And then this technology has gone into the UK. So we're rolling it out to 100 stores every month in the UK. And what we're doing is we're changing this conversation between the food businesses and the charities. And we're connecting charities together as well as people. So those are the numbers: 1,214 tons, 2.67 million meals, and 3,886 CO2 emissions. We have 650 charity partners and 350 businesses. So BIA is a solution then. That's small quantities of food, less than 100 kilos, and it's very easy to do. You're just connecting the food business that has the surplus food at the end of the day to the charity, and it has less than 24 hours on it. That's an amazing thing. We're moving food with less than 24 hours. Really, really good food. You're talking about salads, fruit, ready meals, everything like that. BIA is where you have a whole load of food. So we got a call last week from an ice cream company that had 11 pallets of ice cream. 11 pallets of ice cream that they were throwing out. It was chocolate chip ice cream. And what had happened was something happened to the process, and in the process the chips didn't spread evenly, so it wasn't a quality product. So they were going to throw it out. I got 7 tons of chicken a couple of weeks back. It was breaded chicken, perfectly good chicken. So 7 pallet loads of chicken. And what happened was they breaded the top, they breaded the bottom, and the edges weren't breaded enough, and these were all going to restaurants. It wasn't good enough for somebody to eat on their plate. Let's just throw it out. So before they didn't have an opportunity to do something different, BIA then says, look, we have 30,000 square foot of warehouse in Dublin, Cork, and Galway. We have a customized IT system. We're following IT standards that are completely HACCP compliant, and we limit the liability of the company. So we're creating a system that says, look, you don't have to throw that out. We can take that for you, and we can give it to somebody who needs it. So this is the Carol's Meats. So Carol's Meats is a really interesting, this is a story. Sometimes it helps to get the idea when you have a story. So we rang up Carol's Meats, and we said to Carol's Meats, people really like ham, homeless people really like ham. So we say, have you got any ham? And what happened? The guy said, no, we don't. Right? So then they rang up later, and they said, actually, do you know what we do? As part of our process, we actually create these logs of ham. We put them into a high-speed slicer. It slices it and packages it really, really beautiful. But at the end, the grip piece on the ham that's pushing the meat into the machine, that piece gets thrown out. So that piece is worth 50 kilos of ham every week. That comes down to Cork, it's vacuum packed, and we distribute it to the local charities. So something really, really simple like that makes a big difference. Here's Rosie and Jim's. Rosie and Jim, they have frozen products. They are nuggets, but again, as part of the process, they're the wrong size, and as a result of being the wrong size, they can't put them out. So they were throwing them out before, and instead of throwing them out now, they vacuum pack them and they give them to us. So the same with Tesco. Tesco has a big distribution centre just on the north of Dublin, and what they do is at the end of the week, every Tuesday, what it is they give us all of the food that they have and they send it down to us, and it can be for a whole load of different reasons. Might be short dated, there might be an oversupply, there might be a mistake in ordering, they might have sent it to the wrong distribution centre. So there's lots of reasons why, but before that food was thrown in the bin, no need to do that. Let's do it this way. So these are some of the charities that we serve, and you say they say really nice things. So anybody in Cork will know Penny Dinners there. So this is Katrina in Penny Dinners. With a food budget of only €300 per week, we just could not provide the 1,500 meals needed per week without the use of food donations. And we're enabling those food donations to happen. Every morsel we receive will benefit one of our 40 students or their families, helping them in their daily struggle, the Life Centre. Using surplus food is such a simple idea, and yet the benefit it has to local communities is immeasurable. That's Brendan Dempsey. So what we're doing is we're taking something that was a problem, and we have this other problem over here, and we're creating a solution. So what BIA has done is 1,600 and 500 tons of food. So both of these organizations are only starting. So the vision is for Ireland is that no food should go to waste while somebody is going hungry. That's the vision. And what we're doing in Ireland, we were way, way behind. Remember, in 1967, that was when it started in Phoenix, Arizona. Way, way behind. And suddenly we've piggybacked over everybody because nobody else in the world has the smartphone app solution which takes the short-dated food. And there's a hell of a lot of food you can see like that. Okay, so there's the joint solution. So now BIA BIA and Food Cloud work together to make this solution happen. So no matter where you are in the supply chain, whether you have a small quantity of food or a large quantity of food, we're there with a solution for you. So what I'm asking people here is to be a nobody. Remember those nobodies at the start? We are all nobodies. So remember the 98 billion euro worth of food, that's you guys. You are throwing that food out in the 28 EU countries. But you all know people who are in food businesses. You might run a food business yourself, or you might be connected to somebody in a food business. So can you help BIA and Food Cloud to achieve their mission? We started this with nothing, so there were 5 nobodies. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows the other 4 directors. We're all nobodies. What we've just done is said, this has to change. This doesn't make sense. Let's try and make a difference. So what I'm asking all of you is to come and try and help us to make this happen. So this year we've raised 900,000 euro to keep this business going. We have a 10,000 square foot warehouse on Little Island. 2.5 people work at that warehouse. 2.5 people get paid. Everybody else is a volunteer. This is a really, really simple way. So what we're asking you to do is, if you have a food business, become a donor. If you know somebody who runs a food business, encourage them not to throw out their food. Here's the contact names of all the different people. We're really happy to help you not throw out the food. I'm short $250,000 this year, so if anybody knows anybody who's $250,000, I'd happily take that as well. So there's the contacts for Food Cloud. And then one last thing that I'm going to do, besides saying thank you, is just remind you of a little project. So the whole thing about BIA and Food Cloud is about building community around surplus food, and that everybody should be able to eat healthily. So part of one of the things that we do in the Cork Food Policy Council is we help to organise street feasts. So I'm just going to play a little clip here about street feasts. So Street Feast is happening on the 12th of June. It's on a Sunday, and what we want to do is encourage everybody to respect food, to meet their neighbours and sit and have a meal together and maybe talk about how wonderful food is and what amazing food heritage that we have in Ireland. And if you like, maybe bring into the conversation about BIA and Food Cloud. Thank you very much.